The first time I saw her, she was no more than a child, barely 5 cycles old in human terms, huddled among the ruins of her homeworld. The sky above Verelia Prime was a sickly green, casting shadows that danced over the jagged remains of what had once been a thriving alien city. Smoke twisted into the sky from the crumbled towers, and the ground trembled with the distant rumble of scavenger drones. I had been sent on a reconnaissance mission, a routine survey of post-war territories. My starship, the Peregrine, was equipped with scanners for resource mapping, but nothing in my training prepared me for the sight of her, a small, luminescent-skinned child with eyes like molten silver, crouched in fear beside the twisted wreckage of a hovercar. She looked up at me, and for a moment, the war-torn world fell away. I saw innocence, and more than that, I saw a spark that refused to be extinguished. "Are you alone?" I asked softly, lowering my comm device. The child didn't answer. She merely shook, her delicate bioluminescent patterns flickering nervously across her skin. Her species, the Zytherians, communicated through a combination of melodic hums and color shifts, a language I could barely begin to decipher. But her fear was universal. I crouched beside her. "It's okay. You're safe now." After a tense silence, she reached a small, clawed hand toward me. Something in that gesture, fragile yet brave, made me promise silently that I would protect her, even if I had no idea what the cost would be. I named her Lyra, a name I had whispered to myself so many times during the long nights in space, never thinking I'd one day have to live up to it. The escape. The journey off Verelia Prime was perilous. Warlord factions still patrolled the skies, hunting any survivors. Lyra clung to me as I piloted the Peregrine through asteroid belts, using every evasive maneuver I had learned in my military training. At times, I thought we would not make it. Her tiny voice, more a melodic hum than words, echoed in my mind, urging me onward. By the time we reached safe orbit, Lyra had fallen asleep in my arms, exhaustion etched into her luminous skin. The enormity of the situation hit me. I was responsible for the life of an alien child, alone in the universe with no family to guide her. I resolved then that I would raise her, teach her to survive, and protect her from the shadows that had swallowed her home. A human among aliens. Raising Lyra was unlike raising any human child. She absorbed knowledge at an astonishing pace, her mind a lattice of understanding that outstripped even my most educated colleagues. By the time she was 10 cycles old, she could pilot ships, decrypt alien technologies, and speak fluent human. Her curiosity was insatiable, her brilliance undeniable. And yet, the universe was not kind to those who stood out. We drifted from one safe haven to another, often hiding in the fringes of human space to avoid the attention of interstellar authorities. Even then, Lyra's fame, though unintentional, began to grow. Stories circulated of a small alien child with powers of intellect and strategy far beyond her years. I taught her everything I knew about survival, diplomacy, and strategy. But she taught me something equally important: hope. Even when the galaxy seemed indifferent, even when empires rose and fell like tides, Lyra's determination never wavered. The rising empire. The first sign that she was destined for greatness came when she was barely a teenager. A Zytherian enclave contacted us, desperate for guidance against raiders who sought to enslave their kind. Lyra, though still young, negotiated a truce and led the defense with strategies I could scarcely imagine. The elders of the enclave recognized her as a natural leader, and word of her deeds spread like wildfire. Over the next few cycles, Lyra's influence grew. She united scattered Zytherian colonies, forming a coalition that soon rivaled human corporate fleets in both power and resources. Her leadership style was revolutionary. She led with empathy, understanding, and an uncanny ability to anticipate threats. Those who underestimated her, who saw only the child I had rescued, soon found themselves outmaneuvered and humbled. The galaxy began to take notice. Political factions sought alliances, mercenaries offered their services, and even the human military began to regard her as a figure of interest. And yet, through it all, Lyra never lost the essence of the child I had saved. Beneath the armor of command, there was still a creature who could smile with pure joy, who could marvel at the smallest wonders of the universe. The testifier. Empires are fragile, and power attracts enemies. Lyra's first true test came when a coalition of warlords and corrupt planetary governors conspired to annihilate her growing influence. They underestimated her, as many did, and sent a fleet of warships to strike at her central command station on Zytheria Prime. I was there when the alarms blared. Lyra, no longer a child but still my charge and heart, stood at the bridge of her flagship, eyes focused and unyielding. She gave orders with precision, each command a thread in a tapestry of strategy that unfolded flawlessly. For hours, we fought through waves of enemy ships. Explosions lit the void, and the hum of engines was punctuated by Lyra's sharp, decisive commands. I realized then that she was no longer merely a child I had saved. She was a force that could shape the destiny of entire worlds. When the battle ended, the enemy fleet was destroyed or surrendered. Lyra, calm and composed, turned to me. They believed they could intimidate us. They forgot that courage doesn't always come from experience. It comes from conviction. I felt a lump in my throat. The child who once hid beneath the ruins of her homeworld had become a leader who could command the stars themselves. The weight of command. Leadership is heavy, and Lyra carried the weight with grace. She restructured trade routes, ensured justice for oppressed colonies, and initiated scientific research projects that promised to elevate the Zytherian civilization to unprecedented heights. Yet, she was human enough to understand loneliness. I often found her staring at the stars, silent and contemplative. "Do you ever wonder if the universe is too vast?" she asked me one evening, her luminous eyes reflecting the glow of distant suns. "Every day," I admitted. "But you make it seem smaller somehow. More navigable." Lyra smiled faintly. "I only do what I must. But sometimes, I wish I could still be the child hiding behind rubble." I held her hand. "You never lost that child, Lyra. It's still in there, and it's what makes you a leader worth following." The legacy secured. As cycles passed, Lyra's empire became a beacon of hope across the galaxy. Humans, Zytherians, and other species who had once suffered under tyranny now looked to her as a symbol of unity. Empires that had once dismissed her as a child now sought her guidance. I, once her rescuer and mentor, began to see her as a peer. The universe had shifted. Where once I protected, now I learned. Lyra's wisdom, her vision, and her relentless drive had shaped a new era. But the most profound moment came not on the battlefield, nor in the halls of power, but in a quiet moment aboard the Peregrine, now refurbished and returned to our possession. Lyra, looking out at the stars she had tamed and guided, spoke softly. "Do you remember the ruins of Zytheria Prime?" I nodded. How could I forget? I once feared the universe would consume me. Now I see that I was meant to shape it. She paused, her gaze meeting mine. "And I never could have done it without you." I felt a surge of emotion, a mixture of pride, nostalgia, and awe. The child I had saved had grown into a ruler whose name would echo through the cosmos for generations. And as I watched her, commanding not just ships but hearts, I realized the truth. In saving her, I had witnessed the birth of a legend. Lyra turned, her expression serene yet unyielding. The universe is vast, mentor, but we are the ones who give it meaning. And in that moment, I knew that whatever storms awaited the galaxy, she would face them, not as the child of rubble I had rescued, but as an empress whose courage and compassion could bend the stars themselves to her will.
Epilogue.
Centuries later, historians would speak of Empress Lyra of the Zytherian Empire as the visionary who united fractured worlds and fostered peace across species. Yet among the archives and monuments, one truth remained unsung. She had once been a frightened child, saved by a human who dared to reach out in a world that had forgotten mercy. And in the quiet corners of her empire, she would sometimes whisper to herself, a melody of hums and light, a song of gratitude, memory, and the bond that had forged the woman who now commanded the stars. The child I saved had become an empire, and in her rise, I understood the profound truth of our universe. Heroes are born not from strength alone, but from the courage of those who believe in them when no one else does.